Hi everyone, it's Raina. So this video is if you have your sun in Capricorn and Leo rising. And remember that the rising sign is the first impression that you make on other people, and you can see that this combination is definitely false advertising. And I do have to say that your moon sign and some of those inner planets like Mercury, Venus, and Mars can also affect how you appear to others. But Leo is so overpowering that you may be the kind of person where people would never guess that your sun is in Capricorn because all they see is the Leo. So the rising sign is the cusp of the first house, which is the house of the self. And I would put that in with a small s, because your true self, in my opinion, well, it would be pretty obvious to anyone that this lifetime wouldn't determine your identity, your true identity. So that's more of an eternal thing, and that has to do with your soul. And you being a sun in Capricorn is just this lifetime specific, and having the rising sign of Leo to boot. But in terms of your cosmic blueprint of this incarnation, you have Leo on the cusp of the first house, and so that can affect appearance, that can affect mannerisms. And when I say mannerisms, I'm mainly talking about the way you move and something, the physicality, your body type could be affected by that. And how you behave when you're around other people. So like in social situations. And people who don't know you very well, what they think of you, the kind of impression that you make upon them. And so what would that be? Well, that would be very dramatic. That would be the life of the party, or, sucking all the oxygen out of the room. That could be a little bit exaggerated because the sun is in Capricorn. The sun is a very important influence, and Capricorn is very understated. If your sun was in like fire or air element, then perhaps it would be just enhancing that Leo energy. So this may kind of, your sun sign may dilute that a little bit. But in general, the person who has Leo rising is a big ham, maybe even from a young age. And especially, I feel that the rising sign is very influential before the age of 30. I read something that resonated with me that stated as much. And so this may be like, I feel like the reason this is the case is because it's a defense mechanism to try to fit in with your family system growing up. And this is especially the case when there's a hard angle from the sun to the ascendant. In this particular case, there is an inconjunction. Now, this is what the two signs represent, is an inconjunction, but they do have to be a specific amount of degrees apart. Now, inconjunction is 150 degrees apart, but they allow some leeway with that number, a little bit more than that, and maybe a little bit less, but around that degree. And so not all combinations of the sun and rising will be in conjunctions, but to me, it's immaterial. All we have to do is look at the two signs involved to know that it gives off that vibe, meaning that it is an odd couple. And that's what an inconjunction is. It's when two planets come together in a weird angle. And this means that they don't have common ground. But as I have stated in other videos where I discuss the inconjunction, I don't find that to be the case. I have deliberately looked for common ground simply because if, two planets make any kind of an angle, I feel that it's important to look at both sides of the coin. Not only seeing how, like in this case, weirdly incompatible they are, but also where is there something that they have in common? And so we can see that maybe on some level they strengthen one another, or at least they, well, I could say strengthen or add to whatever that influence is. Because an aspect, and the inconjunction is one aspect, but aspects are when two planets are a certain degree apart from one another and they form different angles. And those angles can either be cooperative, like trines and sextiles. They can be challenging, like squares and oppositions. And they can be neutral, like a conjunction, although a conjunction can trend more challenging or more helpful as well. But the inconjunction is one of those things that you don't see, you probably wouldn't find a lot of videos on it. I'm certainly not going to do videos on it with the more minor aspects because they don't really do much as far as I'm concerned. They just kind of show where the person has a hard time kind of reconciling different influences within their chart. And so I feel like if, because I have an inconjunction between my sun and rising as well, my sun in Sagittarius and Taurus rising. And what I would say could be the case as well is that you felt like an oddball in your own family. You felt like you didn't fit in. You were the, I don't know if I go as far as to say the black sheep of the family, but definitely somebody who was apart from what they represented. And I would say, given the rising sign, that maybe you came from a family that is very touchy-feely, extroverted, maybe loves drama. I mean, both the artistic kind, but also maybe they're kind of loud, boisterous, whatever you want to call it. And you're the one who's very self-contained and you're very precise and they're very spontaneous and they're very generous and you're very cautious with money. All of these things could be starkly different between you and them. So it doesn't mean that there is some kind of bad blood in the family, but simply that you are markedly different than them. And yet, when you were a child, you may have been singled out as the golden child. And so, yeah, I mean, that term golden child can be used for someone who comes from a narcissistic family system where they were the child who was the favored one. And the child that is favored is also abused, not just the one that is the black sheep. I just went and said that you were the black sheep, and now I'm saying you're the golden child. But the reason I say that is because Leo, when you're growing up, you may be given attention by your family, so you may have some kind of a gift or something that sets you apart from your siblings, and your parents are proud of you. If you are a performer, when you were a child, you were in the school plays, or you were, even studying the theater or dance or something like that, then you may have been like kind of the star of the family, the mascot, if you will, the one that tries to cheer everybody up and entertain everyone. But I, the phrase that just came into my mind is the happy clown, or that, but that's not right. The sad clown. I think Capricorn tends towards melancholy. Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, and Saturn is not a trip to the beach. Saturn, your ruler, being the ruler of Leo on your ascendant, is the sun. So if you know anything about the tarot and you know about the sun card, it's good. It's good stuff. And so Leo has that connection to, the sunny personality, the warmth. And these are the things that you can exude, the generosity, but it's not really your true self. It's not really necessarily authentic. It's a part of you, but it's not what you want to grow into. So it can be in your youth, you're more of a spendthrift, and then as you get older, and as you would characterize it, wiser, and begin to be more prudent in your spending habits and just your life in general and all the choices that you make. And I mean, I would react to that and say, well, that's good on you, that you're like that, because there's a very good reason to be like that. However, there can be such a difference between these two influences that it can feel almost schizoid, because the Capricorn energy wants to be very responsible, hardworking, ambitious, and successful. Not to say that Leo doesn't want some of those things. Both of these signs would make great leaders. Both of these signs are hardworking and ambitious. But Leo tends to be spontaneous. Leo is very playful. Capricorn kind of frowns upon that kind of behavior as frivolous. And, if you have this combination, please don't write to me and say, I would never do that. Well, that's because you have Leo rising. But I'm just saying as a sign and the template of that sign. So the point is that the Leo energy is something that you exhibit, that you are capable of doing and showing the world, but ultimately you grow into that Capricorn nature eventually, and the temptation may be to say at some point, oh, when I was younger, I was into the theater. I used to go to the open mics, and I used to do all these things. But, now I'm older, I have like an important job, and I don't do that stuff anymore, as if it is something to put behind you because it reminds you of days that were more, where you were living more in the moment and having those kind of, I don't know if I'd say wild experiences, but much more spontaneous experiences. And there's like a side to Capricorn that wants to be highly scheduled, tightly scheduled, and disciplined and things like that. And those kinds of antics don't really work well with that type of mindset. So one of the things that I feel like both of these signs have in common, besides being a great leader, ambitious, and hardworking, is that there is a desire to be, there's a desire for status. Leo wants to be on the A list, if you take a Hollywood term. and not, you know what I mean? So they're aware of status in terms of being with other people, rubbing shoulders with other people who are successful. There's a quality with Leo that is like kind of the name dropper, the wants to be with the beautiful people. And Capricorn is status seeking in its own right as well. And what can happen when these two signs combine like this is that if there was anything that, like I had said earlier, where you were known, you're almost like famous in your own little slice of the world for your skill, for instance, let's say you were the quarterback of the football team or the homecoming queen, like the most popular girl in the school or something. Or just, like a talent, I really meant to say, but something that you stood out for, and then something happens. Like, let's say the quarterback who's like the star of the team, the big man on campus, has some kind of injury, and, he was planning on going into the pros, and he had like scouts coming by, and all of a sudden his dream dissolved. The Capricorn sun sign, might kick in and you might end up doing something else, but there could always be that thing of like, I was once a star. I was, looking at it from in the rear view mirror. And, in some cases, if that person has built their identity around that at a young age, it can be very hard to shake, and that could really shape their sense of self. A lot of people have heard the term has been, and I still hear people using this term to insult people who were famous at one time. I think it's such an awful term. It suggests that, if somebody is well known or successful at one point in their life, and then at another point they're not as prominent in that field, that they are a has-been. and that but that could haunt this combination, because you really do want that kind of success. And with the sun in Capricorn, you may identify with it, and if it proves to be elusive, it could definitely affect you. You definitely can be an extroverted person, but if you have other inner planets besides the sun, maybe you have the moon and water or earth, that could make you more on the introverted side ultimately. Look to your Mercury, Venus, and Mars as well. And Leo rising can be very attention getting, but there might be some situation where it almost is like this habit where you feel like you're compelled to attract attention, draw attention to yourself, because maybe going back when you're younger, you had that attention from others, or maybe there are some situations where you didn't get it. You were always looking for attention, but you were neglected. I suppose that's the possibility as well. But in any case, this can lead you to do things that are not really in your highest good. For instance, you might do things that are kind of outrageous to seek attention, and you might not even know why you need it so badly. It's almost like this defense mechanism or something that's habitual. And as you get older, I think that you will feel more secure and you won't need to draw attention to yourself. But with the rising sign being the appearance, that could mean somebody that is even trying to get attention through their appearance. Now, I don't know if I would say that a Leo woman would dress provocatively to get attention, but there might be other factors that might indicate this. I don't think about that specifically, but certainly anything that is very flashy kind of outfit, that bright colors, that could be at the very least something along those lines. And just, but I think even more so is the behavior that the person exhibits, which may be loud, being extra loud, being very energetic, but almost like manic, because the fire element is so yang or masculine that it is very uh, aggressive. And this is, and also maybe wanting to seem very happy when sometimes, or just like you're enjoying life, which is what a Leo person typically does. But because of that sun in Capricorn, it may be covering up some feelings that are not like that are not that bright. On the plus side, you may be very expressive, fun to be around, warm, but also responsible and diligent. And so this could be a good combination for success, actually. And in terms of the type of work that you may gravitate towards, we would look more to the sun sign than the rising sign for this. But the rising sign can put you in the door, or what's this thing, open doors for you. Because if you are interested in any performing arts, then you have a natural support in that rising sign, because it will give you confidence. Leo rising will give you a certain dignity. And if you are like in the theater, it's like even better, because there's a theatricality that might be present that works very well for that field. I was going to say much more so than if you're an accountant or a bank manager or something along those lines, when people might be scratching their heads and saying, why is that person so emotive when all we're doing is talking about numbers? So I actually think that even the sciences you might do well in. I knew somebody who was a Leo and was a chemist. And there was some reason why I was thinking that was true, like some of the sciences. But definitely Capricorn would be, because it's an earth sign, would be very good with that kind of thing. I think even like a teacher, Leo rising could be great for dramatizing learning to make it more interesting to young people. Anything where you are in this position to be a mentor to children, or young adult. I don't know if I'd say young adults, but or teenagers. This would be the perfect combination for that. And even though Capricorn is in the sun sign position, you could be involved in the performing arts, and the Capricorn energy would probably have you doing things by the book. Like maybe you would go to art, to acting school if you were going to become an actor. You wouldn't just do it. You would go and get your credentials or something like that. or a musician, not a musician that is self-taught, but that goes through the whole program. Maybe goes to college and majors in music or something. But the end result can be that you are successful in terms of your love life. This isn't necessarily the most romantic combination. Leo is definitely romantic, but Leo is in a position that really doesn't affect romance per se, because it's the cusp of the first house. Maybe it does to some degree, because the first house is opposite the seventh house of committed partnership, so it can describe you at least. So you are romantic, but another aspect of this is that Capricorn is the father. So we can say the head of the family, instead of assigning gender to it, because some families are single parent families. A person who is a Capricorn who is entering a long-term relationship expects it to be, I think by and large, expects it to be forever. But I have just witnessed in my own life someone who got, separated from their love or partner, and they had been together for quite a while, and all of a sudden that was it. These kinds of things are sometimes very sudden, sometimes a long time coming, but your participation in it certainly is relevant, even if the other person ends the relationship. So with this combination, you may attract fire signs and by extension air signs, and yet feel like you want somebody who is an earth or water sign. Look to your inner planets, the divine lovers, Venus and Mars, for more information on that, in addition to your moon sign. Because you could just as easily, besides having Venus and or Mars in Aries, for instance, that could make you more fiery in and therefore romantic when it comes to love, or even when it comes to your ambitions in life. It can make you more aggressive and fiery. And if you have that water energy of the Cancer, that could make you more demure, more toned down, and less like that Leo type of energy. Because if you have your Venus or Mars in Sagittarius, that would go along with that Aries energy and be much more extroverted and even romantic than if you have inner planets in Pisces, for instance. But I think in a lot of cases, because Capricorn, I feel, is a traditional sign, you might especially want to raise a family, and that motivates you to eventually settle down. And when you do, hopefully you have made the right decision and you're not later regretting the fact that you got involved with somebody who was totally different than you, because you have these two competing influences in your inner points, which may even draw certain people to you thinking that you're more like the Leo energy, and then being kind of confused when all of a sudden you decide a relationship is important and you seek to find one and discover that it's not as easy as you thought it was going to be to go through that process. But it certainly doesn't mean it isn't possible. Okay, that's what I have for you, Capricorn. I hope that you enjoyed this. If you would like a private reading, the link is below. Take care. Bye.